One of my favorite things to do in the woods is to try to recreate recipes that you might ordinarily not be able to make outside of a kitchen. I really like the idea of figuring out how to make things that I really enjoy without the modern conveniences of ovens and ranges and refrigerators and things like that. And one of the things that I've come to really enjoy making out here in the forest is fresh baked Dutch oven bread. So I'm going to make a nice loaf of white bread, bake it in the Dutch oven, and I've done this before and it turns out pretty great. And I'm really excited to have a slice of fresh baked forest bread with my dinner tonight. So there's a bunch of steps to this and I'll try to cover it as best I can. So let's get started. I didn't bring my Coleman grill or any of the big propane grills because it's just me out here this week. So the only sort of gas-powered cooking apparatus that I brought is this little butane stove. It's just enough to do what I need. And I'm going to get it going here, and I need to heat up a little bit of water to the right temperature before I put the yeast in it. So since I don't need to heat it crazy, I'm just going to put this little enamel mug right over it, even though I'm probably not supposed to do that, but I only need to heat it to 100 degrees. So I'm going to let that go for just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to check it with the thermometer. All right, we got our 1 1/4 cups of water heated to 100 degrees. And next I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of powdered milk. Now I'll mention that this recipe that I use out here is heavily influenced by a video that I saw a while back from a user named Eat All the Birds. So if you want to check out the video that kind of inspired me to do this, check out Eat All the Birds channel. Okay. Next, I'm going to pour the water and powdered milk mixture into this bowl. I use this great big stainless steel bowl because I can kind of keep everything contained. And out here where I can't really easily clean off a countertop, and I don't really even have a clean countertop to work with, the bowl works great. And again, I'm pretty sure that I got that idea from the Eat All the Birds video that I was talking about. Okay, so we've got the water and the powdered milk. Next, 1 packet of rapid rise yeast. Now, I'll mention this isn't instant yeast, it's just a regular packet of Fleischmann's yeast. Mix that right in there, just 1 packet. Make sure to get all of it in there. Then I'm going to add the sugar and salt, and this calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. So there's 2 tablespoons of sugar and do 1 teaspoon of salt. All I brought with me is this coarse ground salt, but hopefully it works just the same. Okay, next I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. It says you can also use a big scoop of vegetable shortening if that's what you have. I have olive oil, so I'm going to put in just about 2 tablespoons. I'm just going to sort of eyeball it. I'm not going to get real precise on the olive oil. Alright, next I'm going to add 3 cups of flour, and 3 tablespoons of something called vital wheat gluten. This is an ingredient that I add to all of my breads. If you use bread flour, you don't need this. Bread flour pretty much just has extra gluten, but I have all-purpose flour, so I'm just going to add 3 tablespoons of vital wheat gluten. I bought this in a great big bag, and the bag didn't reseal, so I put the rest of it in a mason jar. So now I'm going to mix this all up, and this is going to be the dough once it's mixed up enough. Once I get this mostly stirred up with the fork, I'm going to start kneading, and you have to knead it for 10 minutes. And if you need just a little bit more water to make it a good consistency, you can splash a little more in there, but you don't want to go crazy, otherwise you'll just make it too wet. And I can already tell I'm going to need just a little bit of extra water in here. And once I start kneading this, I'm not going to be able to do anything with my hands until I wash them off, so I'll probably skip ahead a little bit to when I can turn the camera back on. Alright, I probably added a total of about another quarter of a cup of water to this, and consistency's pretty decent. I might dust it with a little bit more flour now that it's kind of stuck together, and this flimsy table that I have out here isn't really the greatest for kneading against. Do the best I can. So I got to do this for about 8 more minutes, and well, maybe I'll skip to that on the video so you don't have to sit here and watch me do this. Alright, here's our kneaded dough, and it's ready to proof. Now, a trick that I learned again from the Eat All the Birds channel is to get a pot of water just about to the boiling point, and then turn the heat off. And what I'm going to do from here is set the big metal bowl on top of this and let it sit there. And the heat from this almost boiling water, as it's cooling, will keep this big stainless steel bowl at a good temperature, and it'll proof. So I'm going to cover this up with a cloth. Actually, I forgot a step. I need to splash a little more oil into the bowl. Just a little bit, just to keep it from sticking. Okay, and then I'm going to put I'll go ahead and put the pot over here and set this right over it, and cover the dough with a very slightly damp towel. Now I'm going to let this sit for 1.5 to 2 hours, so we're going to have to pick it up there. Alright, it's been somewhere between 1.5 hours and 2 hours, so it should be done proofing. So there we have it. I guess it's got about twice as big. So next, all I have to do is sort of press it down, knead it one time, and then kind of form it into the shape I want. So all I'm going to do is press it down. I'm going to fold it over one time. And now I'm going to sculpt it into the shape that I want. And I pretty much just want a ball, because it's going into a round Dutch oven, and it's going to fill up to, you know, the shape of the Dutch oven, if nothing else. So there we have it. It's important that I put the seam on the bottom. Now I've been heating up the Dutch oven for the last little while here. So all I have to do now is put a little bit of oil in the Dutch oven, put the dough in. I'll drizzle a little more oil on top of the dough. and then it's just time to bake. So I'll move over to the Dutch oven now. I've got a little bit of a bird's eye view here so you can really see what's going on and see down into the Dutch oven. You can see I've got just a very shallow little area next to the fire pit where I'm using the Dutch oven. I've got it nice and flat for my Cowboy Kent Rollins Trivet here, and got the coals under it, the coals above it. I'm going to take this lid off very carefully with my little grabber thing. And I'm just going to drizzle a little oil in here and rub it around as quick as I can with some paper towels. It's going to be very hot in there. Get the sides a little bit best I can without burning myself. Now I'm going to put the dough right in there. And I've already got the bottom a little too hot, as you can hear. So I'm going to drizzle just a little oil on top. Not too much. See, I'm already getting an undesirable effect here, and that's that the bottom is going to be frying. So what I need to do is clear out a bunch of the coals from beneath it and heat it mostly from the top. So because there's not really any flipping when you're baking, this is kind of a delicate balance between making sure it's cooked in the middle but not overdone or burnt on the bottom. So I'm going to keep the coals on top pretty fresh because they'll get cool before you know it. And about every 15 minutes I'm going to rotate the lid 90 degrees or 180 degrees rather, and I'm going to rotate the whole oven 180 degrees. That way if there's any uneven spots with the heat, it'll get everything some equal cooking time. So we'll come back in about 15 and we'll turn it. It's been about 15 minutes and I've already added some new hot coals to this thing. But right now, all I'm going to do, if I can find the handle here, is I'm going to turn this lid without removing it 180 degrees. Then I'm going to turn the entire Dutch oven 180 degrees. Very carefully. And that's it. And then in about another 15 or so minutes, I'm going to check out the bread. Alright, we're going to take a quick peek at this thing. It's been in here for probably a good 30 minutes or so. I'm going to twist this a little bit to make sure that none of the coals fall inside. And, well, you can see that it's getting pretty brown on top. It looks like it's my seam is split just a little bit near the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. It still looks pretty good. It's pretty hollow on. It's pretty hollow sounding up here. I'm thinking it's still a little doughy there down near the bottom. So I'm gonna get some of these coals more towards sort of the bottom, maybe near the edge, and we're gonna give it just a little while more. This has been baking for a little while longer. I moved most of the coals away from the lid and kind of put them more around the bottom, kind of close to the edge of the Dutch oven. So I'm gonna probably take this thing out right now. I looked at the bottom real quick and it's getting pretty brown, and the bread sounds pretty hollow all throughout, so I think this is the time when I have to pull it out so I don't risk burning it. So I'm gonna get it out of here and get it over on a plate. So there we have it. I will say it looks a little bit prettier from this side as it does from this side, but that's okay. I'm not worried about that at all. This thing's still piping hot, and I'm gonna let it cool for about 20 or so minutes before I cut into it, but I think it looks pretty good and it smells great. Alright, it's been 20 or so minutes and I'm gonna go ahead and cut into this thing. Now of course I didn't happen to bring anything even remotely like a bread knife, unless of course you count a wood saw, but I don't think I'll use that. So instead I'll just have to use the chef knife, and hopefully it cuts through okay. Well, that's not bad at all. The inside, I wouldn't mind for that to be just a little bit more done. It's just the tiniest bit doughy. But I tell you what, it's still going to be pretty tasty. That's the problem with not using the right knife. I'm going to just smush this thing all up trying to cut a slice. There's that little bit of thick crust on the bottom there, but I'd say that's not too bad. It's not burnt, it's just a little brown. But there we have it. I'm gonna have some of this with my dinner tonight, and maybe I'll grill a little bit up tomorrow for breakfast too. Make some toast. This will probably toast up pretty nicely. So that's it. That's my Dutch oven campfire white bread. Nothing beats it. If you can make something like this out in the middle of nowhere, you can make it anywhere. So that's it for now. Again, check out Eat All the Birds YouTube channel. That's where I got the inspiration for this from. He's got a lot of great videos. So that's it for now. Until next time, this is Great Lakes Prepping.